Hi, I'm Jeff, and welcome to another episode of DOA, Dorward Outdoor Adventures. As you can tell today, I'm not in the woods and I'm not on the water. I'm in my kitchen and I'm going to take you through something that I haven't done yet on this channel, and that is how I'm going to prepare an elk roast on the smoker. There's a couple simple steps involved and I'll take you through all of them in order to prepare a delicious wild game meal. So what I have here is about a 2-pound elk roast that I'm going to get seasoned up and do kind of that first initial step that I season it and I do a rub with it and I put it in a Ziploc bag and I leave it there for about 12 hours before I put it on the smoker. So normally I'm a big fan of using the Traeger spices. This one is a prime rib rub that I use quite often. This other one, if you like the taste of black pepper, is a blackened Saskatchewan rub. But for today, I have found something recently at Costco with a sweet mesquite rub that has worked well on a few other things. So I'm getting ready to prepare this elk roast and I'm going to rub it down with the sweet mesquite today. And although you can spice it up and you can flavor it up so that you take away the wild game taste, I actually don't mind the taste of elk, and I don't find it very gamey either. So I'm going to season it, but I'm not going to over season it because I want that elk flavor to really shine through once I put it on the smoker. So with the plain defrosted roast, all I'm going to do is generously put my spice rub on here. Again, this is the sweet mesquite from Costco. You can feel free to use whatever kind of rub and flavorings that you want. I'm just going to make sure that the entire roast gets covered and it really gets a chance to work in to the meat. I have also found that when I first started doing rubs on meat before I put it onto the smoker, that a lot of times I wasn't putting enough on. It seems like it's a lot, but once it all soaks in and once it gets on the smoker, I've noticed that I was not applying enough rub. So now I'm pretty generous with it without being too generous. There's one thing that I don't do when I'm cooking, and that is measure. I go by a feel, I go by a look, and that's essentially what I'm going for. So you want to get your rub worked in to the roast so that it really gets in there and absorbs in. And once I have the rub on there, I'm going to leave it for about 1 hour before I do the next step. So the roast has been sitting in the seasoning and the rub for about 1.5 hours here. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to add some barbecue sauce to it. Very simple. What I'm using here is the Sweet Baby Ray's, just the original barbecue sauce is one of the ones that I like to work with. And again, I'm going to generously douse the roast so that it is covered in barbecue sauce. And essentially what I'm going to do is get it into this Ziploc bag and continue massaging more spice, more rub, and the barbecue sauce into the roast, and I'm going to put it in the fridge and let it sit for the next 12 hours. Let's see if I can do this without making a mess. A little bit messy, but that's okay. So I've added barbecue sauce in here. I'm just going to quickly wipe off the edge of this bag so I'm not going to make even more of a mess. Okay, with the barbecue sauce on the roast and in the Ziploc bag, I'm going to add just a little bit more of the seasoning. I'm going to make sure that the Ziploc bag is closed. And essentially what I'm going to do is I'm just going to massage and rub this in. And after a few minutes, I'm basically just going to put this in the fridge, let it sit overnight, 12, 24 hours, whatever works best for you. And then at that point, I'm going to be ready to put it in the smoker. It's been 24 hours since my roast has been sitting in the barbecue sauce and the rub that I have it preparing in. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn on my smoker and get that heated up right now. And it's a basic, simple recipe on the smoker that I'm gonna share with you right beside me here. So it's about an hour a pound, and with this being a 2-pound roast, I know it's gonna take me about 2 hours to do. So you wanna make sure that you're around and home to take it off the smoker, and we're gonna cook that at 225 degrees, and we're gonna wait till that roast reaches an internal temperature of 125 degrees. So as soon as the smoker is up to temperature, I'm gonna put the roast on, get the probe inserted so I can monitor it without opening the lid and losing heat from it until it reaches that internal temperature of 125 degrees. Once it reaches that 125 degrees, I'm gonna take it off, wrap it in tin foil to hold in that heat, and I'm gonna let it rest for at least 30 minutes. So we've reached our temperature of 225 degrees. We have a hopper full of pellets, and it's time to get the roast on the smoker. So when I'm doing this, I want to make sure that I have the meat in the middle of the smoker so that there's even heat going all around it. And when I insert the temperature probe, I also want that to go right in the middle of the meat so that it's getting an actual temperature of the thickest part of the piece of meat. In order to check the internal temperature of the meat, of the roast that I'm cooking today, all I'm going to do is press this probe selector. And it's going to show me the internal temperature of my roast is only 43 degrees right now. So I'm able to monitor this by pressing this button, knowing it's going to take approximately 2 hours to check the temperature of my roast without ever opening the lid. While that roast is cooking and smoking on the smoker, I'm going to take the opportunity to get some of my dill pickle roasted potatoes on the go here, which is basically really simple. I'm going to cut up some potatoes. I'm going to use these, the Little Potato Company, the little duos. Those are great. You cut them in half, you put them in a bowl, you mix them with some oil, you season them, you throw them in an air fryer or a toaster oven for 20 minutes, and they're ready to go. So now that I got all the potatoes cut up, stirred around with a little bit of olive oil so that the seasoning can stick to them, I'm going to use a couple different flavorings here. So the first one that I'm going to use, these are all from Clubhouse. So this is the dill pickle seasoning flavoring. So all I'm going to do is add some of that. I'm also going to add a little bit of the garlic plus. And I'm also going to add a little bit of the Italiano seasoning. Once I have them all in there, I'm going to stir them up so that they're all coated and each piece of potato has seasoning on it. I'm then going to place those seasoned potatoes right into the rack that we use in our toaster oven. Put it on the air fry setting and toast to a temperature and a crispiness of your liking. So when you're cooking with wild game, it's always very lean meat. So overcooking it is going to make it dry, tough, not enjoyable. So I find that a medium rare to a medium well is the most you ever want to do it. So it's been about an hour and 15 minutes here. I've just checked the temperature and we're getting close. And my smoker's a basic smoker. It doesn't have any Bluetooth technology. It doesn't have any automatic shut off. My next one will. So I'm going to be monitoring the temperature very closely over the next 45 minutes and pushing that button about every 10 minutes. So I'm waiting for that internal temperature to be 125 degrees. I definitely don't want to go much over that. However, with an electric smoker, there can be a little bit of forgiveness. So it's been just under 2 hours, about an hour and 40 minutes here, and we've reached temperature 126 degrees. Time to pull the probe, take out the roast, wrap it in foil, and let it rest for the next 30 minutes. There you have it, elk roast on the smoker. What I've done, I've gone and paired this with my dill pickle flavored roasted potatoes, as well as I've grilled up some veggies as well. So very simple, very easy to do. Again, I've done this with an elk. You can do this with any other wild game or any beef or any pork, and just gives you kind of some tips and tricks on how I prepare my wild game on the smoker. If you've made it this far in the video, I want to thank you all for watching. Would love it if you would hit that subscribe button, leave me a like, or even a comment or two. And I can't wait to see you next time right here on DOA, Dorward Outdoor Adventures.